I think it's come naturally to me to be sort of in the position of the observer. I remember when I was in high school, when my mom came back from Teacher's Day or whatever it's called, Parents' Day. She said, "Oh, your literature teacher said you were contemplative," and I was like, "Really? Is that what I mean?" It really stayed with me, and now that I make documentaries, I think it really rings true. Like I love to contemplate situations, people, reality, the world, and you know, I think the documentary form is kind of perfect for me, and it took me time to actually come to it. I was drawn to narrative first, but then when I started to work on documentary, I was like, this is it. It felt really liberating to actually not have to create a whole universe, you know, but to actually just be in the world, and you just contemplate, and then you go to the editing room and you have time to sort of reflect on it and organize it. And so yeah, I would say that blending in and being invisible is kind of it's a personality thing for me. It's like it's always been I've always been reserved in a way, and I guess that's part of the reason I can relate to Raf Simons also so well, because he's often described as reserved and you know, sort of withdrawn. Those are words that people even sometimes call him cold, you know. These are words that I've heard used about myself, like, very often. And you know, I know that it's a different reality, so I can sort of understand where Raf is coming from and what it's, in terms of personality, we share some of the same traits, you know.
Sure.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've really made big mistakes in the beginning. I mean, sometimes you overstep your boundaries, or you know, it's hard to. You have to communicate with your crew that also they need to have that same sort of approach. And I remember my cameraman was much more used to, I guess, a more aggressive type of documentary filmmaking, and he worked especially in narrative films, and so he didn't really have that sense of boundaries, and sometimes he would just go straight in front of Raf or the seamstresses and sort of block the view from the dress, which was very easy to fix, you know. But it's something you have to be constantly aware as you're shooting, because it just disrupts the flow of the action, and it draws attention to you, and it's so yeah, it's something that you constantly you have to be very attentive to, like, what's going on. But I think that's something that most people do in life also very naturally. Well, you're always testing the limit, you know. That's very much what documentary filmmaking is about. You're there until they tell you not to be there. And even when they tell you not to be there, you hope to be there to record them telling you not to be there. And that's what happened on Valentino the Last Emperor, you know, a lot, you know, just Valentino saying, turn the camera off, and we would keep filming, because that became part of the drama, you know. So you're always testing the limit, and it's always a little bit dangerous, and that's what makes it a little bit exciting. And you know that you can burn your relationship, you know, you can really lose the trust of your subjects. So yeah, it's very hard to judge. You have to just go with your guts and make a judgment on the moment. The scene on the rooftop, it's very interesting. It's very interesting that Raf doesn't remember me being there, because he specifically looks at me and then starts crying. I think I'm partly responsible for him breaking down, I think, because he turned to the camera at some point, and I told him, like, I actually broke usually I look through the viewfinder, but I broke that rule and sort of looked at him in the eyes. and said, "Wow, this is incredible." And that's when he said, "Ooh la la, I can't believe it." And then after that, he sort of went to realize what was happening. But as soon as I saw him having this very vulnerable moment, I took a step back. I shot for a few seconds, and then I felt uncomfortable being there, and I didn't want to take more than he had given me. And that's when you sort of have to judge your limits. And I went to the end of the rooftop and I filmed from very far away. And all of those things, I don't think there are any rules. It's just like life, you have to be considerate. I mean, I was really lucky because when I started working in documentary film, I learned from the best, because on Valentino, the Last Emperor, we had the best cinematographer, the best American cinematographer around, Tom Hurwitz, who taught me everything. The best editor, Bob Eisenhardt, who's edited many, many films, with Barbara Koppel. I mean, he's like one of the best. And so the team that I was learning from was just incredible, all these veterans from filmmaking. And for me, I was just fresh out of film school, learning I knew how to tell a story, and I had a very strong sense of drama, because that's what they teach us at Columbia University, where I went for my MFA. But in terms of practical skills, I learned from these amazing veteran filmmakers. And so I don't know, what did I learn? I mean, I learned how to organize an editing process from Bob Eisenhardt, and it was very impressive. We used color-coded index cards to sort of map out the story. We would do an index card for every single scene in the film, even the ones we were not using in the end. And then that's how we would map the film on the big whiteboard, and that's how you decide to make changes. Sometimes you take a scene, you move it from Act 1 to Act 2, and that was very, very useful. And that's a technique that I still use. It's the system that I still use, even for narrative film. I think I'm writing a narrative screenplay now, and I'm using the index cards too. It's a very useful tool.